Part 6. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 51. Li Qing didn't find Chen Shooting's classroom until school ended, so he simply stood outside the car and waited. He was smoking a cigarette boredly and thinking about his next plan. Brother Cheng. Why are you here? Chen Shooting held the book and ran towards Li Qing in surprise. Li Qing looked from a distance and saw Chen Shooting dressed in student uniform, exuding a youthful atmosphere. The book in her hand made her look even more elegant. He stretched out his arms to hug Chen Shooting, who rushed into his arms, feeling her majesty. I happened to be doing some work here. I missed you and came to see you. There were still a few months of exams left, so Li Qing asked Chen Shooting to live on campus during this period to prevent his energetic self from disturbing her. I miss you too. Chen Shooting said happily, and pinched the soft flesh on Li Qing's waist. Li Qing looked at her with a smile, his eyes filled with emotion. What can he do? I had no choice but to take Chen Shooting to a 5-star hotel, and it took me nearly 2 hours to enjoy it. Mainly because Li Qing had to talk about things at night, otherwise he would have to study hard all night long. In the evening, there is a Guzhong restaurant. Han Chen arrived early. He had never had any contact with Li Qing. This time, Li Qing suddenly invited him to a banquet, which made him a little excited. If Li Qing agrees to allow his goods to enter Mongkok and Causeway Bay, his income will be double what it is now. Brother Han, I came so early. I'm sorry I'm late. Li Qing opened the door and saw Han Chen sitting inside. Boss Li, I came early. Han Chen quickly stood up and stretched out his hands towards Li Qing. The two exchanged pleasantries and began a long conversation of compliments and small talk. Boss Li, you are looking for me this time, right? Han Chen finally couldn't help but ask. It's okay. I just heard that Boss Han has an unfinished building in Chitin. I want to buy it and use it as a warehouse for goods. After Li Qing finished speaking, he took a sip of tea and looked at Han Chen playfully. Han Chen was stunned when he heard this, and suddenly remembered that he did have an unfinished building in Chitin. It was originally intended to be a warehouse, but who knew that a local elder named Chen blocked it and it failed. There is indeed an unfinished building. There is a clan leader named Chen there who is more difficult to deal with, so I haven't developed it. I want to wait until I can make them relent, and then start it again. Han Chen told the truth that this was all information that could be obtained, and he did not hide it. Brother Han, please give me a price. Li Qing touched his chin and asked Han Chen to make a price without hesitation. Han Chen rolled his eyes and immediately knew that things were not as simple as he thought. Boss Li, let me go back and think about it. After all, I am not the only one who invested. Looking at the little man in front of him, Li Qing knew that he would not be able to win the unfinished building tonight. Han Chen is famously shrewd. Rumors in the world say that the reason why he is short is because of his selfishness. Okay, then Boss Han, please give me the letter as soon as possible. Li Qing is not in a hurry. He wants to secure this unfinished building, but he doesn't want to go to so much trouble. He just wants to take it directly. If he couldn't take it, he wouldn't mind if a few more people sank into the sea. After drinking and eating, the two walked out of the hotel, got into their cars and agreed to meet again tomorrow. Brother Qing, do you want to kill him? The person driving this time was Zhang Qiandan. As for Zhang Dongxiu, he was probably still immersed in the gentle countryside. Qiandan, this is not the time to use force. If everyone knows that I, Li Qing, kill people because business fails, then I will not do business in Xiangjiang in the future. Li Qing looked out the car window at the bustling city. He knew that there must be rules in everything, otherwise there would be endless troubles. At this time, Han Chen did not go home, but met a mysterious man on the rooftop of a building. Brother Chen, what's important? The investigation is very strict during this period. Lu Jianming, wearing a peaked cap, said softly. I know. Unless it's something important, I won't contact you. Check Li Qing for me. Han Chen said mysteriously. This undercover police officer was promoted very quickly based on the information he revealed. It is said that he will be promoted to senior inspector in a short time. Li Qing. Lu Jianming's pupils shrank. He had heard of this person. He was the most popular figure in Hong Kong in recent times. Well, there must be information from the police that I don't know about. Han Chen said with a solemn expression. You all know the public news, but most people don't know the secret news. The latest news, I do know about Zhang Xiao's kidnapping of Lin Jiaqin's nephew. Oh. Regarding this matter, Han Chen also heard rumors in the world that a mysterious boss had saved someone. But no one knows who this mysterious boss is. The person who saved Lin Jiaqin's nephew was Li Qing. Han Chen paused at the cigarette in his hand when he heard this, and the ashes fell to the ground. A look of surprise flashed across his face, and he remembered Li Qing's acquisition of unfinished buildings. Everything is clear. It must have been the Lin family who thanked Li Qing and revealed some information to him. If Li Qing were here, he would definitely applaud Han Chen. You can guess from just a few words that he is indeed a man with a higher heart than his height. It seems that it is not impossible to sell your own flour to Mongkok and Causeway Bay. Han Chen sent Li Jianming away and thought carefully. In the Mercedes-Benz car, Li Qing was chatting with Zhang Qiandan. Brother Qing, AO is coming out. Li Qing's always calm face revealed a look of surprise. AO, whose real name is Chiu Gang AO, is a former inspector of the crime unit of the Hong Kong police force. When he was imprisoned 2 years ago, it was Li Qing who rescued several of them from a group of extremely vicious Stanley criminals. With the blessing of saving his life, he was adopted by Li Qing as his younger brother. However, what made Li Qing regretful was that the loyalty value entry was stuck at 99% and never reached 100%. The same goes for Chiu Gang Ao's younger brothers, who are all stuck at 99%. Just come out. Now is the time to employ people. It's much easier to use your own people than others. Zhang Qiandan smiled and looked at Li Qing respectfully. As a big brother, I can do well anywhere, I just don't like using new people. Brother, you can actually let go and use the newcomers, Zhang Qiandan advised. Li Qing sighed. How can a newcomer be 100% loyal? In addition to picking up Feng Yuxiu in half, he is also a martial arts fanatic. Is it better for you, others? I'm not worried. Zhang Qiandan was also moved when he heard this. Anyone who followed Li Qing in Stanley before, as long as they came out, he arranged them in different subsidiaries, and the worst ones were supervisor-level positions. How is the smuggling business over there? Li Qing has not been involved in the smuggling business recently. Brother, Shenyang's mobile phone usage has been a bit low recently. Li Qing frowned, his expression a little solemn. Go back and ask Ding Qing what's going on over there. After we get the unfinished building and the land down, we'll go to South Korea again. He had no choice but to put the matter in South Korea aside for now. After all, the most important thing now was to get this matter settled. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 52. The next day, Li Qing and Han Chen met again. This time Han Chen had a confident smile on his face. He thought he had seen through Li Qing's plan. Boss Han, what are your thoughts? Looking at Han Chen, who was smiling across from him, Li Qing lit a cigarette. He found that this short fat boy was different from yesterday. He obviously looked confident. Brother Li Qing, I will give you the unfinished building. Hearing this, Li Qing glanced at Han Chen opposite, wondering what kind of medicine was being sold in the gourd opposite. But he knows that there is no free lunch in this world. Oh? Tell me what the conditions are. Since we are all foxes for thousands of years, there is no need to play nonsense. Li Qing tilted his head back and crossed his legs to make himself more comfortable. Hey, Boss Li is really happy. I want the distribution rights in Mongkok and Causeway Bay. When Li Qing, who was crossing his legs and standing on tiptoes, heard this, his expression turned cold. He poked his head forward and stared at Han Chen opposite him. The whole of Xiangjiang knows my rules. No one can touch flower in my land. Do you want to die? Han Chen was startled by Li Qing's cold eyes. He didn't know why Li Qing reacted so violently. Boss Li, if you don't make a bastard, if you have money, I can double. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by the sound of Li Qing slapping the table. If you dare to mention it again, I will pull down your flag. Opposite Han Chen was speechless for a moment. As a talker in Yaomati, he also had a temper. Ni Yongxiao didn't dare to treat him like this. The smile on Han Chen's face disappeared. I'm sorry, Boss Li, I still want to keep the unfinished building for appreciation. After saying that, he stood up and planned to walk out of the room. I heard that Boss Han's younger brother is about to be promoted to senior inspector. Do you want me to give him a congratulatory gift? Looking at Han Chen's back, he trembled, as if a restraining spell had been cast on him. When Han Chen heard this, his pupils shrank, and a look of fear appeared on his face. Except for his wife Mary, no one else knew about the secret. Why did Li Qing know it? After a long time, Han Chen turned his head and said, I can give you the unfinished building. In exchange, you are not allowed to reveal it. Li Qing looked at Han Chen and smiled, I have always abided by the rules of the world. Brother Han is a more playful person. He actually planted a nail under the nose of the police. I admire you, I admire you. Snort. Han Chen stopped staying, turned around and left in a hurry. Looking at Han Chen's leaving figure, Li Qing smiled contemptuously. He still wanted to sell goods in Mongkok. Han Chen was probably out of his mind. Narrowing his eyes, it seems Han Chen can't stay here. In fact, Li Qing did not have murderous intentions towards Han Chen at first, but Han Chen's subsequent actions made him feel very uncomfortable. In particular, they asked for the right to distribute flour in exchange. This kind of person will always be lurking behind you like a poisonous snake, waiting for the opportunity to attack you. At the same time, Han Chen, who walked out of the hotel, had the same idea. His secret was actually known to Li Qing. It is very possible that Li Qing also knew about Mary's murder of Ni Kun. Just in case, he plans to kill Li Qing, but the biggest problem now is that he is not strong enough. Even after killing Li Qing, he cannot stop Li Qing's younger brother's crazy revenge. The whole of Xiangjiang knows that every one of Li Qing's younger brothers are fiercely loyal. If he dies, these people will kill each other at all costs. Han Chen searched carefully and happened to remember the rumors in the world that Li Qing had crippled Prince Hongxing's younger brother yesterday. He thought this should be a good opportunity, and immediately said to the boy next to him, make an appointment with the Prince of Hongxing for me. I have something to discuss with him. The younger brother left in a hurry. Han Chen fell into deep thought again. He was thinking about how he would deal with the counterattack of the New World if Li Qing was killed. The best way is to let Prince Hongxing fight dog with New World, reap the benefits himself, and then unify the entire Yaoxim Mong area. I am afraid that by then his status in the society will be higher than that of Ni Yongxiao. Just thinking about it made him feel beautiful. Brother, I think Han Chen won't give us the unfinished building so easily. Zhang Qiandan sat next to him, eating with Li Qing. Li Qing put down the big stick in his hand and wiped his hands with paper. Han Chen is nothing, but his wife is interesting. Zhang Qiandan also knows the character of his eldest brother and a good wife. His eyes flashed, brother, do you want me to tie her up? When Li Qing heard this, he gave him a big bang. How come your mind is full of unhealthy thoughts? John Candon covered his head, knowing that he had patted Ma's leg. It seemed that his eldest brother was not the legendary devil in sex. He doesn't dare to deal with me directly. He will most likely use a piece of paper. People like him will not abide by the rules of the world. Li Qing wiped his mouth and said. The rules of the Jianghu in Hong Kong are that the Jianghu is the Jianghu, and no one on either side is allowed to alert the government. However, now that we are about to enter a new century, many associations have broken through the bottom line. After all, in an era where profit is king, if you continue to cling to the old rules without changing them, you will be eliminated. Keep an eye on him, Li Qing ordered. Li Qing's imagination was correct, but he ignored one thing. He didn't expect Han Chen to start taking action after leaving the hotel. In Tsim Sha Sui, two people are cooking at a street food stall. Han Chen, you came to my place to eat dog meat, right? The prince picked up a piece of hot dog meat, put it in his mouth and chewed it. This Han Chen has always been a master who will not let go of eagles when he sees rabbits. This time he will definitely go to the Three Treasures Hall for nothing. Hey, I just heard that the prince's brother was raped recently, so I came here to express my condolences. Han Chen looked at the prince teasingly. When the prince opposite heard this, his expression froze, he slammed his chopsticks on the table, and looked at Han Chen with an unkind expression. The scene became quiet, only the dog meat hot pot was bubbling. When the younger brothers behind the prince heard the sound, they all stood up, and some even pulled out the machetes from their waists. Han Chen glanced at me and said, I'm not here to fight with you, don't be so impulsive. The prince waved his hand towards the back, and the younger brothers sat down one after another. Tell me what you want to do with me. You won't come here to laugh at me. Han Chen leaned forward and whispered, how about we get rid of Li Qing together? The prince looked at Han Chen in surprise when he heard this. Even though his brother was crippled by Li Qing, he didn't dare to have this thought. It is impossible to get rid of Li Qing unless the three major associations in Hong Kong unite. The accurate thing is to get rid of Li Qing personally, not the entire New World. Everyone knows that without Li Qing, the New World will not last long. Han Chen was confused and said that his idea was to assassinate Li Qing and then let the prince take the blame, so that he would benefit in the end. Seeing the prince's hesitation, Han Chen continued, now that something happens to your brother, you don't dare to come forward. How will your younger brother think about it? When the prince heard this, he remembered that indeed since yesterday, his subordinates had looked at him a little strangely. He didn't realize this until Han Chen mentioned it. In this way, if I get rid of Li Qing, I only want the distribution rights in Mongkok and Causeway Bay, and you can take the land. The prince's eyes lit up after hearing this. This vote was done. He was the talker of the three Tuo lands, and he was very likely to compete with Brother Ji for the leading position. If a person dies, his eggs will fall into the sky, and he will not die for tens of millions of years. Do it? The prince gritted his teeth and decided to take a risk. If he succeeded this time, his life would be extremely good for the rest of his life. Han Chen looked at the excited prince and smiled. The most important thing in the world is this kind of gambler. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 53. It just so happens that the teacher at my brother's school is very likely Li Qing's woman. We can use her to lure out Li Qing. The prince just remembered what his brother told him, that Xingxin is very likely Li Qing's woman. What if she is not, will it backfire? Han Chen is very cautious. He is afraid that if this teacher has nothing to do with Li Qing, both he and the prince will be finished. There is no way, I can only take a gamble. Li Qing's other woman has always been protected by bodyguards. It seems that the prince has other ideas, otherwise he would not have the information about Li Qing's woman. On the surface, Li Qing has only one woman in Hong Kong, that is, Gang Sheng. They don't know that there is also Chen shooting. This is also because Li Qing did a good job of keeping secrets. Except for Zhang Dongzhou and a few others, he has never brought Chen shooting to meet other younger brothers. The prince and Han Chen carefully discussed the feasibility of the plan and finally decided to kidnap Xingxin to coerce Li Qing. Late at night, Xingxin walked out of the Mongkok bar. Although she looked tired, she was still very happy in her heart. She made 20,000 Hong Kong dollars from selling alcohol today, and the money for her father's medical treatment was almost collected. Thinking of this, she had to thank Li Qing. It was because of Li Qing's behavior in the bar last time that no one dared to tease her again. And they also scrambled to buy the beer she recommended. They really made a lot of money during this period. Thinking of that man, Xingxin's heart was beating non-stop. But the education she received made her feel that she should stay away from such people, so she was very conflicted. He was a gangster. It was rumored that he had dozens of lives under his command and killed people without blinking an eye. Some short mules also admired him very much. They kept talking about Brother Cheng. He had a high status in the gang. The most important point was that his bar was known as the safest bar in Hong Kong. He did not allow any flower to enter his bar. Xingxin felt from the bottom of her heart that Li Qing did not seem to be that bad. Suddenly, she remembered the action of lowering his head and smelling her hair yesterday. Her face suddenly turned red. Bad guy, she muttered softly, but her slightly raised corners of her mouth betrayed her. Xingxin, who was just daydreaming, noticed that a black business car had been following her when she came out of the bar. She quickened her pace with some fear, and the subway station was in front of her. She breathed a sigh of relief until she was a few dozen meters away from the subway station. It should be an accident. Unexpectedly, the black car stopped on the side of the road, and several people jumped out of the black car, covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief, and pulled her into the car. Xingxin fell into a coma in a daze. Brother, the reception downstairs received a letter for you, and I didn't dare to open it. Zhang Dongzhou handed over an envelope. Li Qing frowned. Now everyone uses mobile phones to communicate, who still writes letters? He took the envelope and saw the 3 big words Li Qing received on it. He opened the envelope and found a photo and an address message. After taking a closer look at the tied-up woman in the photo, Li Qing's eyes flashed. The note read, 8 p.m., abandoned hut halfway up Fei Mountain, 500,000 ransom or I'll kill her. Do it yourself. Li Qing sneered. The kidnapping was tied to his head. Zhang Xiao was not so brave. Zhang Xiao, the most powerful kidnapper in Hong Kong, was sunk to the bottom of the sea by his gasoline barrel. There is such a blind thief. Li Qing handed the photo and the note to Zhang Dongzhou, who also looked at it and laughed. This woman has nothing to do with you, big brother. They kidnapped the wrong person. Zhang Dongzhou put down the photo and said with a smile. Li Qing glanced at Zhang Dongzhou, and his laughter stuck in his throat. Don't you find that this woman and the boss are a good match? Zhang Dongzhou was speechless and nodded perfunctorily, very good match. He really complained in his heart, every woman is a good match for the boss. Brother, do you mean to go alone at night? Zhang Dongzhou asked tentatively. Deep well ice, Li Qing looked at his younger brother who was amused. Sure enough, this is the brother I know, who is not moved by women. Zhang Dongzhou nodded secretly. Bring more brothers with you at night, I'll see which kidnapper is so arrogant and rescues women at the same time. A little after 7 o'clock in the evening, several cars went up Fei Mountain. Brother, there is an abandoned hut in front, and there is only this one on the whole mountain. The younger brother pointed to the hut with a faint light and said. You wait here, Dongzhou and I will go there, and come over as soon as there is any movement, Li Qing ordered. After that, he took Zhang Dongzhou to the abandoned hut. Zhang Dongzhou looked around vigilantly, pushed open the door and walked out first. Li Qing followed closely behind. The room was not big, and Xingxin was tied to a chair with her mouth sealed with tape. Seeing Li Qing come in, Xingxin was obviously very excited and made a humming sound from her mouth. There was no one in the room except Xingxin, which made Li Qing feel strange. Walking forward, Li Qing tore off the tape on Xingxin's mouth, before Li Qing could say anything caring. "There's a bomb under the chair," Xingxin screamed. Li Qing's pupils shrank when he heard it, and he saw that the iron chain locked Xingxin and the chair together, and the bomb was tightly attached to the bottom of the chair. Li Qing didn't care to talk, and grabbed the iron chain with his hand and exerted force, even the veins on his neck bulged. Kala, the iron chain was broken by Li Qing's force, and he quickly dragged Xingxin out of the house. When passing by Zhang Dongzhou, he kicked Zhang Dongzhou away. Poor Zhang Dongzhou was in a daze. It took a long time, but it was only a few seconds. The bomb behind him suddenly exploded, and the whole hut was blown up. Li Qing pressed his whole body on Xingxin, using his body to protect Xingxin. With a muffled groan, it was obvious that Li Qing was injured. A steel bar was inserted into Li Qing's left arm, deep enough to see the bone, and blood kept flowing out and wet Xingxin's clothes. Zhang Dongzhou sat up in a daze, covering his ribs. He was not injured by the explosion, but Li Qing broke several ribs. The younger brothers ran over and hurriedly helped their boss up. The steel bar had penetrated his forearm. Li Qing endured the pain and ordered, "Look for the remote-controlled bomb. The person must not be able to run far." The person lying behind the rock a few hundred meters away looked at all this in horror. He didn't expect Li Qing to be alive. This time it was over. He stood up and ran up the mountain. There, Li Qing's eyesight was much better than that of ordinary people, and he saw the person running away at once. A group of younger brothers followed the direction Li Qing pointed and chased after him. Xingxin looked at Li Qing's arm helplessly, wanting to help but not knowing where to start, and was anxious. Instead, Li Qing comforted Xingxin, "It's okay." He endured the pain and pulled out the steel bar, and the blood flowed faster. Xingxin hurriedly wrapped her hand around the back end of the wound. "I didn't expect you to know first aid," Li Qing said with a smile. "Woo, you're still laughing, you're injured." Xingxin finally couldn't help crying. Zhang Dongzhou endured the severe pain, covered his ribs, and looked at the scene with envy. Then he said resentfully, "Brother, I feel like I was blown up, but I'm not as badly injured as I am now. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 54. Li Qing's brothers desperately chased the black shadow in front of them. Due to the night vision, they could only see a blurry figure. Finally, they caught the person behind a huge rock. After a while, the brothers brought people to Li Qing. Li Qing sat on the stone and smoked a cigarette, and Xingxin squatted on the ground and carefully bandaged his wound. "Tell me, who sent you?" Li Qing took a deep breath of smoke and looked at the four-eyed boy kneeling in front of him. Seeing the four-eyed boy silent, Li Qing's brothers pushed him. "No one, I just want to blow you to death." The four-eyed boy pushed his glasses and said in a low voice. Li Qing looked at the four-eyed boy and laughed, "Okay, I admire your toughness. Even if you don't say it, I will find out. Take him to light the sky lantern." Zhang Dongzhou's eyes widened when he heard about lighting the sky lantern. He often heard his elder brother talk about lighting the sky lantern, but he had never seen it. This time he finally got to see it. When Si Yanzhe heard this, his face turned pale with fear, and he immediately waved his hands. I'll tell you, I'll tell you." Can't you be a little tougher?" Zhang Dongzhou slapped Si Yanzhe to the ground. His whole face instantly swelled like a non, and he screamed and fell to the ground. I won't say it anymore. Damn, my big brother asked you to say it, but you still don't say it? Si Yanzhe wanted to cry but had no tears, so, should I say it or not? Li Qing looked at Zhang Dongzhou speechlessly. Say it? It's the Prince of Hongxing, he hired me to blow you up. Si Yanzhe quickly told what he knew. Prince, Li Qing murmured, and then glanced at Xingxin next to him, probably because of his brother. Brother, there are several cars coming from a distance. The younger brother hurried to report to Li Qing. Li Qing squinted his eyes and watched the vehicles coming from a distance, and the pupils in his eyes shrank. Turn off the lights, take your weapons, and find a good cover. The younger brothers quickly scattered and took out weapons from the car. Some squatted behind the car, and some climbed directly to a high place and lay behind the rock. Li Qing also took out a pistol and pulled Xingxin to hide behind a huge rock. Needless to say, the four-eyed boy was directly cut in the throat by Zhang Dongzhou. He was holding his throat and squirming constantly. In the silent night, only the unburned fire in the hut was left, making the crackling sound of burning wood. Looking at the dim light, 5 vans were parked not far away. The person who jumped out of the car was obviously holding a rifle, similar to the AK-47, but the buttstock was longer. Brother Taze, don't worry. My younger brother is a genius in blasting, there is absolutely no problem. Li Qing is probably already blown to death now. The voice from a distance made Li Qing and others sure that the four-eyed boy was not lying. Don't talk, be careful, there is no movement now, there must be something wrong, go up. The prince followed the firelight and only vaguely saw a body lying on the ground. He was not sure if it was Li Qing. The prince led his younger brother, bent his body, looked around and slowly walked towards this direction. Xingxin hid in Li Qing's arms, and was so scared that she almost stopped breathing, and her heart jumped directly to her throat. Li Qing only felt the hot breath of the woman in his arms, hitting his chest, hot, numb and very comfortable. Looking down at Xingxin's frightened little eyes, he couldn't help but lower his head and pecked a little. Xingxin was stunned. What was this man thinking at such a dangerous moment? He actually kissed her face, and her face turned red visibly. "Shh, stay here and don't move," Li Qing said softly. "Don't," Xingxin shook off the ripples in her mind and gently pulled Li Qing's sleeve. She was afraid that Li Qing was in danger. "Don't worry, the one who can kill me has not been born yet." Li Qing watched steadily as the prince and his group slowly approached, and they were already at the most accurate distance for the pistol. He also had some considerations. The brothers brought pistols this time, and there was no semi-automatic or automatic rifle. We can only bet on accuracy. Fortunately, the enemy is in the light and I am in the dark, so the advantage is on me. Shoot. Li Qing took the lead in aiming at the target and shooting. For a while, Li Qing's brothers vented bullets at the prince and others. The prince was also alert, but after all, he was ambushed. In just a few seconds, 1/3 of his brothers had fallen. He immediately ordered his brothers to shoot in the direction where the bullets came from. Both sides fought back and forth, so lively. But as time went on, Li Qing's side showed signs of decline, mainly due to insufficient ammunition, and the other side mostly had continuous fire rifles, and the firepower was also suppressed. Li Qing used up all the bullets, pulled out a dagger from his waist, and crawled slowly towards the prince and others. His younger brothers followed suit. As long as they mixed in, the other side would be afraid to shoot at close range. When he was 10 meters away from the prince, Li Qing suddenly took a few steps and came to the side of the prince and others. The prince felt a flash in front of his eyes and subconsciously pushed the younger brother beside him out. Li Qing cut the throat with a knife and solved the minions in front of him. "Prince, I will let you die in Fei Mountain today." The prince was horrified when he heard Li Qing's voice. He kept pulling the trigger and fired all the bullets in the pistol. All the bullets hit the minions that Li Qing used as meat shields. Ka. The gun in the prince's hand made a sound of empty guns. He threw the empty gun without bullets to Li Qing, turned around and ran towards the younger brothers behind him. Zhang Dongzhou and others also came in front of them and started hand-to-hand combat one by one. Looking at the prince with a grim smile, Li Qing swung the dagger in his hand forward. The dagger passed through the crowd and stabbed directly into the prince's thigh. A scream sounded, and the prince fell to the ground, but he still stroked his thigh with his hand and slowly moved forward. He regretted it now, regretting not bringing more brothers and weapons. The only hope is to delay time and wait for Han Chen's reinforcements to arrive. Li Qing walked towards the prince and broke the necks of several minions. "Who gave you the courage to kill me, Liang Jingru?" The prince didn't know who Liang Jingru was, but he knew that if he didn't leave, he would really have to explain himself in Fei Mountain. "Li Qing, it's all misunderstanding, listen to my explanation." The prince looked at Li Qing, who was walking over, and tried his best to delay time. Bang! Li Qing heard a different gunshot and subconsciously turned his body. The bullet grazed his left arm, taking away a large piece of flesh and blood. Regardless of the pain, Li Qing turned over and hid behind a car. Sniper rifle. Li Qing gritted his teeth and endured the severe pain. Only a sniper rifle could have such power. "Dongzhou, at 3 o'clock, take people to touch it," he ordered Zhang Dongzhou loudly. Zhang Dongzhou took his little brother with him and crawled towards the 3 o'clock direction without saying a word. The prince was delighted when he saw this scene. Han Chen's people finally came. But the next moment, he couldn't laugh because a sniper bullet hit his abdomen. Looking at the blood hole in his abdomen, he suddenly understood something and looked in the direction of Li Qing. He tried his best to say to Li Qing, "The person who killed you is Han." Bang! Another gunshot blew his head directly. Li Qing looked at the headless body of the prince with a solemn expression. "Han? Han Chen. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Banwanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 55. The sniper rifles rang out a few more times, and everyone lay on the ground to avoid the bullets. It wasn't until a few sporadic gunshots were heard on the mountain that the sniper rifle disappeared. Li Qing finally relaxed and sat limply on the ground, leaning on the tire, breathing heavily. This was the first time he encountered a fatal crisis. He lowered his head and glanced at the hideous wound on his arm. A large piece of flesh disappeared and blood continued to gush out. The physical strength that he was proud of was useless in front of a sniper rifle. He took off his belt with difficulty and was about to tighten the upper part of his arm. A pair of small hands tremblingly took the belt from his hand. "I'll do it." Seeing the scared but stubborn look on his face that still insisted on stopping the bleeding, Li Qing didn't insist anymore. "Pick up that bullet for me," Li Qing said with the bloody bullet not far away. Xingxin immediately ran over, picked up the obviously deformed bullet, and handed it to Li Qing's hand. Li Qing looked at the blood-stained bullets, which were obviously different from those of pistols and rifles. "Brother, I only found a sniper rifle," and the man ran away. Zhang Dongzhou was afraid that Li Qing was in danger and did not dare to pursue him too deeply. Li Qing's face was bloodless, and even his lips were white. "Let's go. Send brothers to the hospital." After looking at several familiar figures lying motionless on the ground, he knew that several brothers were dead this time. "Give me more settlement allowance." Li Qing sadly looked at his younger brother's body lying on the ground and clenched his fists involuntarily. "Han Chen." There was a gnawing rage in his eyes, making everyone shudder. Xingxin looked at him with concern, holding Li Qing's hand, trying to comfort him in this way. Li Qing was held by Xingxin's cold little hand and came to his senses instantly. "Leave a few people to chop the prince into pieces and feed them to the dogs, while the others go to the hospital for treatment." Half an hour later, outside the operating room of Hong Kong Royal Hospital. Several men who clearly looked untouchable were walking around the door of the operating room. Zhang Dongxiu, is this how you protect your eldest brother? I'll give you a hard time. Zhang Qiandan scolded Zhang Dongxiu, who was sitting on the chair with a decadent look on his face. Dehu and Ergu lost their usual smiles and looked at Zhang Dongxiu with complaints on their faces. Fen Yuxiu punched the iron bench, and the steel bench was bent immediately. The loud noise startled Xingxin, who was cowering aside. Da-da-da, the sound of rapid high heels came from the distance. The anxious Hong Kong student rushed towards the operating room anxiously, regardless of the fact that he was still wearing high heels. Sister-in-law. Sister-in-law. What's going on? How could I be so seriously injured? Hong Kong asked anxiously. At this time, Zhang Dongxiu stood up with a look of shame on his face. Sister-in-law, blame me. I didn't protect my eldest brother. Ding, the door of the operating room opened. Everyone quickly looked at the doctor who came out. The patient's life is not in danger at the moment, but he has lost a lot of blood. The penetrating injury on his arm, is it an old injury? The doctor asked with a strange expression, then shook his head and walked away. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they heard this. Li Qing was pushed out, and a group of people immediately gathered around him. Brother. Seeing a group of people surrounding him, Li Qing rolled his eyes. What are you doing here? There's no need to do anything. Brother, we have finished shooting today's magazine. Do you want to read it? Dehu scratched his head and said with a smile. Get out. Li Qing had a black line on his head. The prince is dead. Hurry up and take advantage of this opportunity to capture Tsim Sha Sui. Beat up the other gangsters in Hongxing as well. He also knows that the younger brothers are concerned about him, but this is the best chance to win Tsim Sha Sui, and even Jianghu will not say anything. After all, it was the prince who failed to assassinate Li Qing. Li Qing was lucky enough to survive, so he should collect the spoils. When the boys saw that Li Qing was okay, they followed his instructions and started to wave people to Tsim Sha Sui to pull the flag. After Hong Kong students waited for the boys to leave, they found a girl standing next to her covered in blood. Then he looked at Li Qing angrily. Ahem, this is Xingxin, Hong Kong student, please make arrangements. Even though Li Qing was thick-skinned, he couldn't stand Hong Kong students' gaze. Indeed, there were already 3 women in the family in just over a year, and Li Qing felt that he was going too far. Well, I have to change it next time. I can't afford to buy another villa. Xingxin looked at Li Qing distressedly, standing aside numbly and not daring to come forward. She also knew that Hong Kong Shen was Li Qing's real girlfriend. Okay, I'm fine. If I hadn't come earlier, the wounds would have scabbed over, Li Qing said with a smile. Nonsense, Hong Kong opened his big beautiful eyes and rolled his eyes at him. In fact, he was not joking. His body's recovery ability is 5 times that of ordinary people, and the penetrating injuries on his arms are now healing. Hong Kong Shen turned around and comforted Xingxin. At Li Qing's urging, the two went to the villa to rest. It wasn't until everyone left that Zhang Dongxiu sat in front of Li Qing's bed like an aggrieved child. Brother, I'm sorry. Zhang Dongxiu said guiltily. Fart, it's none of your business. Isn't it normal for us to get injured while trying to catch someone else? Li Qing straightened up and patted Zhang Dongxiu's head. In order to kill him, the opponent's sniper rifles came out, which was not something Zhang Dongxiu could solve. Okay, you stay with me and take a nap, Li Qing said to Zhang Dongxiu as he felt sleepy. He knew that Zhang Dongxiu would not leave, and he did not persuade him to go back. Zhang Dongxiu quickly agreed, looked around vigilantly, and quickly stood up to draw the curtains. No matter what, I can't let my brother get hurt in the future, Zhang Dongxiu said secretly. Tonight is destined to be restless. It was close to dawn, but for young people in Hong Kong, the nightlife had just begun. People were coming and going in Tsim Sha Sui, and young people gathered in groups of 3 or 2. I don't know when the street appeared, and the young and dangerous men with black cloth strips on their arms appeared. From a distance, there was no end in sight. The people wandering on the street were so scared that they ran desperately towards their homes. A group of young and dangerous men rushed into the place of Hong Xin Prince and started to smash and destroy. For a while, the scene was extremely chaotic. The younger brothers who were watching the place of Hong Xin were all stunned. They didn't know where a group of young and inexperienced people came in and beat them up. According to the rules of the underworld, shouldn't they show off their horses first, negotiate, and then break up with friends if they can't reach an agreement? Hey, John Candon, what are you doing? This is Hong Xing's place. Don't forget that you New World also came from Hong Xing. Someone inside knew John Candon and questioned him by name. Damn, we are targeting you, Hong Xing. John Candon's face was gloomy. Since the prince dared to assassinate, the whole Hong Xing should bear it. After saying that, he rushed over. The younger brothers of New World were all angry because their boss was injured. With this anger, they beat the opponent without any chance to fight back. The entire Hong Xing Hall was swept by New World in a short period of time. Not long after, the whole of Hongjiang knew that New World and Hong Xing had started a war. It was called a war, but in fact it was a unilateral crushing by New World. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 56. Hong Xing Headquarters, Juyi Hall. Brother Ji, what is the prince doing? Why did he have to mess with Li Qing when there are so many other people to mess with? Ma Wangji unslammed the table and asked loudly. Now the whole Hong Xing knows that Li Qing cannot be messed with, because more than one person who had conflicts with Li Qing disappeared. Shanji, Chen Henan, Zhang Tiansheng, Zhang Tianyang, how many of them are there? Don't you learn your lesson? Han Ben and Fatty Li looked at each other. Fortunately, they knew what to do, otherwise the grass on their graves would be 10 feet high. Now, all the halls have been swept by the New World. What do you think we should do? Except for 13th Sister's place, all other places in the entire Hong Xing have been swept, and all the hall masters have suffered heavy losses. The most important thing is that it gives other clubs an opportunity to take advantage of it, and many small clubs have begun to quietly erode Hong Xing's territory. We can't beat them, and we don't know where the prince died. What do you think we should do? Brother Ji spread his hands, indicating that there was no way. You are the leader, if you don't solve it, who will? Pretty Mom patted the table and stood up to look at Brother Ji. Damn, then you can be the leader. Brother Ji didn't tolerate her and cursed directly. In fact, Brother Ji is now in a difficult situation. He regrets taking over the mess of Hong Xing. If he had known this, he would have let Li Qing be the leader. Now he is in a mess. A group of people fell silent. Everyone knew that since Li Qing withdrew, Hong Xing's status in the underworld has been getting worse day by day, and even some small societies dared to provoke them. How about inviting Li Qing back? Han Ben asked tentatively. What are you thinking? New World is developing so well, there are people and money, if it is you, will you come back to take over this mess? Brother Ji sneered at Han Ben's idea. Since it was the prince who did something wrong, we can't drag the whole society into it. I suggest talking to Li Qing. If it doesn't work, throw him out of Tsim Sha Sui. Anyway, the prince is not sure whether he is alive or dead. I suspect. 13th Sister didn't say anything more. All the hall masters guessed what she would say next. Okay, let's do it. I will personally invite Li Qing to the first wine the day after tomorrow. Li Qing couldn't stay in the hospital for only one day. His other wounds were almost healed. Only the wound on his left arm was more serious, but he could feel that it was recovering quickly. In order to avoid the doctor's suspicion, he was discharged directly. Back to her villa, Chen Shooting cried again. She had been living on campus. Li Qing specifically asked not to let anyone tell her about her injury. Brother Qing, does it hurt? Chen Shooting looked at Li Qing's hanging left arm with tears in her eyes. It hurts a little more than the first time you did it. Li Qing quietly leaned close to Chen Shooting's ear, bit her earlobe and said. Hateful. Chen Shooting blushed and patted him gently. She rolled her eyes and pinched Li Qing's ear. Tell me, how did you know Teacher Xingxin? She came back from school yesterday and found that there was a woman in the villa. It turned out to be the school goddess Teacher Xingxin. Li Qing was stunned. He realized that the two of them seemed to be barely a teacher-student relationship. Things with color began to flash in his mind. A teacher and a student, just thinking about it was exciting. He felt his cock start to move. This was something that no man could stand. Hey, what are you thinking about? Chen Shooting blushed and pointed at Li Qing's little tent. Ahem, Shooting, there is a term called double flying, and the English name is double flying. He looked at Chen Shooting with a smirk. I'm so annoyed with you. The silly Chen Shooting took a long time to react and turned away shyly. He looked at Chen Shooting, the single ponytail swinging behind her, and thought of the scene of galloping horses again. Brother Qing, what did Qiandan say on the phone? Aao will be released from prison tomorrow. Gang Sheng came to sit next to Li Qing. Finally, he's coming out. Li Qing nodded and said, tell Qiandan that I'll pick Aao up from prison tomorrow. The next day, around 10 o'clock in the morning, the gate of Stanley opened, and 5 big men with fierce auras walked out. The leader had long hair, but the scar on his face ruined his handsome face. Li Qing looked at the man from a distance and laughed. This man was one of his strongest brothers in Stanley, Chiugang Ao. Ao. This way. Li Qing waved at Ao. Chiugang Ao in the distance saw his boss, smiled happily, and walked towards Li Qing with his brothers. Brother Qing. Big brother. Well, it's good that you're all out. I'll take you to wash away the bad luck. Li Qing stepped forward and patted the arms of several brothers. What made him regretful was that the loyalty of Chiugang Ao and others was still stuck at 99%. Brother Qing, are you injured? Ao and the others then noticed that Li Qing had his arm in a sling and a bandage on it. The younger brothers behind Ao were all shocked. They had been Li Qing's sparring partners for many years, so they naturally knew his fighting ability. It seemed that the other party was also a master, as he could injure his boss Li Qing. Sniper rifle. Looking at the younger brothers, Li Qing said calmly. Ao's pupils shrank. As the leader of the action team before being imprisoned, he certainly knew the power of a sniper rifle. Just as he was about to ask in detail, he was interrupted by a roar from the side. Ao, you are crazy. Do you know who he is? You are hanging out with him. Li Qing smiled as he looked at the man walking over angrily. The man who came was none other than Senior Inspector Zhang Chongbang of the crime unit. Sir Zhang, of course I know who my eldest brother is. Does he have anything to do with you? Ao smiled slightly sarcastically, and the scar on his face twitched like a ferocious centipede. Behind him, Beizhu, Ahua and others all looked at Zhang Chongbang with contempt. Do you know that he is the worst bad boy in all of Hong Kong? If you call such a person big brother, you are out of your mind. Zhang Chongbang looked at Ao angrily. You personally sent the 5 of us to jail. After we went in, every night, prisoners we caught with our own hands came to settle accounts with us. Ao grabbed Zhang Chongbang's collar and looked at him intently. Pointing at the scar on his face, he said, here, here, and here. If it weren't for Brother Qing, we would have died in prison. Bad boy. Ha ha. After speaking, Ao spat on the ground, Don't think that because you told the truth in court, you are so noble and righteous. You defend a thief but don't protect your brother. Coke is a drug dealer. Zhang Chongbang looked at the stab wound on Ao's face and the burnt face of the young master. Don't confuse right and wrong with me here. You have crossed the line. You don't have to pay it back. Zhang Chongbang still held his own justice and criticized everyone from the commanding heights of morality. Sir Zhang, are you okay? If nothing happens, I will take my brother to take a bath to get rid of his bad luck. After all, he has been in prison for 3 years. Li Qing stood up, stood in front of Ao, and looked at Zhang Chongbang calmly. Be careful, I will keep an eye on you. Zhang Chongbang's eyes flashed, and he pointed at Li Qing and said. Tisk tisk, I'm waiting for you at any time, but there is no evidence to arrest me. Be careful, I will go to the investigation department to file a complaint against you. Li Qing didn't care about Zhang Chongbang's threats. If the police officer had evidence, he would have arrested him long ago. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 57. Mongkok Bath City. Li Qing didn't dare to touch his arms, so he could only sit half-body in the water. Ao, when you come out this time, I plan to make you responsible for the firearms training of the security department. Don't worry, as the business grows, our business scope will also become wider and wider. Li Qing said while looking at Ao, who was completely buried in the water. Ao came out of the water after hearing the sound and wiped the water stains on his face, looking a little embarrassed. Brother, I have one more thing of my own to do. I'll come back after I finish it. Obviously this was the 1% existence. Li Qing lit 2 cigarettes and handed one to Ao. I know Situji and Huo Zhaotang. Li Qing directly pointed out the key to the matter. He estimated that Ao would definitely take revenge when he came out. Brother Qing, I'm afraid I'll hurt you. Li Qing waved his hand and took a deep drag on his cigarette. It's not a small matter, I can still handle it, but you have to know that once you do this, you won't be able to stay in Xiangjiang. The 5 people fell silent after hearing this, obviously knowing the result. But in the past 3 years in prison, the only thing that sustained them was revenge. In this way, I will arrange for your family to go to Hejiang first. Don't worry about work, I will make arrangements. Ao and others were moved, but they didn't expect Li Qing to think so far for them. As for revenge, you can arrange it yourself. Tell Dongzhou what you need. Zhang Dongzhou nodded when he heard this. Brother, your arm. Ao knew something about the strength of Li Qing's body, which was a defense that even a knife could not cut through. Let's talk after we take a shower. I'll let you see the gun and you'll understand. Among Li Qing's younger brothers, they were the only 5 who could barely be considered firearms experts. Half an hour later, Ao picked up the sniper rifle dropped by the killer and observed it carefully. Brother Qing, this is the G3SG1 sniper rifle. It is a sniper rifle commonly used by the Hong Kong police, especially mobile units, such as the Flying Tigers. Hearing this, Li Qing rubbed the barrel of the gun and nodded slightly. Police? Sharpshooter. Han Chen, I'll beat your lungs out, he cursed through gritted teeth. By the way, Ao, do you know Lu Jianming? Ao bit his nails and thought for a moment. I heard that this man is about to be promoted to senior inspector. He is climbing the ranks very quickly. He seems to be very knowledgeable in catching drug dealers. He never comes back empty-handed every time. Indeed, everyone in the police force thought that he had a powerful insider, which was why he received so much information. Li Qing nodded silently. He had sent people everywhere to look for Han Chen since yesterday, but had not received any news. It seems very likely that it has something to do with Lu Jianming. Brother Hong Xingji invites you to have a talk. The younger brother came over and whispered in Li Qing's ear. Li Qing nodded and waved, and a boy came up from behind carrying a plate. "Ayo, this is the meeting gift I prepared for you." I saw 5 gold watches and a pile of banknotes on the plate. "Thank you, Brother Ching." "Thank you, brother." The young master shouted the loudest among the 5 people. He couldn't wait to put on his watch and look to his left. "You guys play slowly, I have something to do." Li Qing said hello and walked out of the room. Ao looked at Li Qing's background with emotion on his face, and remembered the scene in prison again. When he was first imprisoned, he was beaten 3 nights in a row. There was a criminal who hated him so much that he even wanted to pee on his face. Suddenly, Li Qing from next door heard the sound and came over. Without saying a word, he kicked the short mule away. He knelt down and stretched out his hand. "Hey, what's your name? Follow me from now on." It was then that I realized that loyalty is not a black and white thing. So what about white ones? Zhang Chongbang could save 5 of his people from going to jail and Brother Biao from dying with just 1 sentence. But in the end, he told the truth and killed Brother Biao. There are also Situ Ji and Huo Zhaotang, each of them has no humanity. On the contrary, the young and dangerous boy who is hated by everyone makes himself and others feel warm. Ao knocked on the table, and the other 4 people stopped and looked at him. "Don't say I didn't explain it clearly. If anyone dares to implicate Brother Qing in this matter, God won't even give him face." Ao said with a serious face, murderous intent in his eyes. The other 4 nodded and said nothing. "Brother Ji, I haven't gained weight in a long time." Li Qing looked at Brother Ji sitting on the sofa and greeted him with a smile. "It seems that since Brother Ji took the leading position, he has made a lot of money." "Haha, Ah Qing, I'm so puffy, but you're still so strong." "Strong?" Li Qing pointed to his injured arm. "You call this strong? The prince did it." "Brother Ji, don't say I don't give you face. Even if the King of Heaven comes this time, it won't work." He also used explosives, which is quite cruel. Li Qing's call blocked all GGE's words. Brother Ji could only smile sarcastically. "Ah Qing, this matter is indeed the prince's fault. I don't know where the street boy went. But it has nothing to do with the club. It was all his own decision." Brother Ji waved his hands repeatedly and pushed them all away. "Look, just sweep his place. There is no need to sweep other hall masters' places as well." Li Qing looked at Brother Ji with disdain. "Hong Xing is getting better and better. If he chooses this kind of person as the leader, he will be done with it sooner or later. Let's discuss that. As long as New World and Hong Xing make peace, Princess Tsim Sha Sui will be yours." Brother Ji is a grandson who doesn't feel bad about selling his grandfather's land. Anyway, as long as his interests are not affected, nothing else matters. After a few years, he will retire and live abroad. Li Qing didn't say anything, but clapped his hands. The younger brother outside the door dragged a yellow-haired man in. The yellow-haired man looked at the person in front of him with a bruised face. Brother Qing, please let me go. It's all Prince's fault. It's none of my business." The yellow-haired man barely stood up, knelt in front of Li Qing, and grabbed his trouser legs beggingly. "Prince is your brother, how can it be none of your business? Brothers should pay their debts." Li Qing waved his hand, and the younger brother immediately pulled the yellow-haired man out. After a scream, there was no sound. Brother Ji looked ugly, and he knew that Tsim Sha Sui could not satisfy Li Qing. "Well, I'll give you the shops in Yao Mati, so you can occupy more than half of the Yao Tsim Mong area." Gge gritted his teeth and said with pain, "After all, the monthly rent of the shops in Yao Mati alone is hundreds of thousands." "Okay, Gge is straightforward. I also came from Hong Xing, I have to remember the old friendship, forget it." Li Qing pretended to be generous and waved his hand. Gge was also relieved. As long as New World did not make trouble, Other small societies would not dare to follow New World to drink soup. Okay, it's a deal, I'll go back first. Hong Xin will withdraw from Tsim Sha Sui before tonight. After saying that, Gge immediately said goodbye to Li Cheng. He didn't want to stay here for a minute longer. Looking at Gge's back, Li Cheng smiled contemptuously. Dongxiu, send someone to take over the Tsim Sha Sui venue and the shops in Yaomati. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 58. As for the remaining Tuo land in Yaomati, it still belongs to the Ni family in name. Now that Han Chen can't be caught, there is no way to win the flag. He still needs to think about it again. It was not until evening that the battle between New World and Hong Xin, which lasted for a day, stopped. In the end, New World won a great victory and captured the entire area of Tsim Sha Sui, and Li Cheng's momentum became even stronger. In an inconspicuous small hotel in Kowloon, a knock on the door came. Who? Han Chen asked cautiously with a trembling voice. Me. A familiar female voice came, and Han Chen breathed a sigh of relief. Han Chen opened the door, pulled the woman over, and slammed the door shut. Mary, is there anyone following you? Mary shook her head and looked at the dilapidated room. Tell me, what exactly have you done? New World, Helianchen, Hong Xin, and some small societies are all looking for you. In other words, Mary has a little face in the world, otherwise, she would have been arrested by others. Han Chen sat on the bed dejectedly, lit up a cigarette, and took a deep breath, with a look of regret on his face. I teamed up with the Crown Prince of Hong Xin to plan the assassination of Li Cheng but failed. Mary was stunned when she heard this, her face turned pale, her legs went limp and she sat on the chair. It wasn't until a few minutes later that he finally recovered. He shouted hysterically, "Are you crazy? The entire Xiangjiang society knows that the person who should not be offended in the world is Li Cheng. This guy is determined to retaliate. Basically, everyone who has a grudge against him has gone to line up in the underworld." Mary tremblingly snatched the cigarette from Han Chen's hand and took a deep breath. The two were silent for a long time. Why don't you go find Ni Yongxiao to intercede? This is the only way that Mary can think of. After all, there is still a relationship between the speaker, and Li Cheng will not be crazy enough to break up. Haha, you are looking for him because you think he died quickly enough? Do you think he doesn't doubt the cause of Ni Kun's death? Han Chen lowered his head and mocked. It's because Li Cheng knew about Lu Jianming that I decided to get rid of him. Who knew that Li Cheng was destined to die? Han Chen's eyes were red and he was on the verge of collapse. He didn't expect that 3 bombs, Prince attacks, and sniper rifle shots still failed to kill Li Cheng. Let's leave Xiangjiang. Mary took a puff of cigarette and stubbed out the cigarette butt. Leave? Han Chen's expression was a little confused. The entire waterway is controlled by Li Cheng, how can we leave? Fly away. Yes, just fly away. Mary's eyes were firm. Right now, Li Cheng is only conducting a small-scale investigation. As long as we get on the plane leaving Xiangjiang, Li Cheng can't do anything to us. Han Chen was stunned when he heard this, and then he was happy. Yes, let's do it like this. Let's communicate with Lu Jianming and ask him to help delete the exit records without anyone noticing. Han Chen picked up Mary's face and kissed her hard. You are so smart. Mary's eyes showed disgust and she pushed Han Chen away. I'm going to make preparations and transfer the funds, Mary said, and hurriedly left the small hotel. Just when Mary was transferring herself, Li Cheng approached Ni Yongxiao, the Ni family's talker. Boss Li, why did you find me? Ni Yongxiao is a middle-aged man with an elegant appearance, who looks a bit like Zhang Tiansheng. He has a gentle look with eyes and does not look like a talkative person in the society at all. Boss Ni doesn't know how my arm got injured, right? In fact, it had been more than 2 days, and the wound on his arm had begun to scab, but Li Qing still had to wear a bandage. After all, he had to be honest even if he was selling badly. Haha, I don't know if it was Han Chen who did it. As you know, Han Chen is so powerful that he doesn't even bother to ask me about some things. Ni Yongxiao made no bones about it and said that he was unable to control his little brother. Li Qing looked at the Ni family talker in front of him with a dull expression, and casually threw a bullet. The shape of the bullet is long and narrow, the warhead has been severely deformed, and there are strange patterns on it. It is obviously made of a special alloy. Ni Yongxiao took the bullet and stared at it intently. His usually calm face showed a look of shock, and the hand holding the bullet slowly tightened. Does it look like the one that killed Mr. Ni? Li Qing looked at Ni Yongxiao and continued. Who? Who is it? The voice was squeezed out of Ni Yongxiao's throat like a wild beast. Kill my people. Li Qing pointed to his arm, with a hint of hatred in his eyes. Han Chen. When Li Qing said this name, Ni Yongxiao felt that the fog that had been blocking him had been lifted. It turned out that everything was traceable, and I had doubts about it, but I could never find any evidence. I can't find him, but I believe Boss Ni can find a way. Ni Yongxiao nodded when he heard this. He also buried nails around Han Chen. He didn't shy away from Li Qing and made a call directly. Not long after, the other party called back directly, "Brother, Mary has started transferring funds and may want to flee." Li Qing heard it from the side and clapped, "Boss Ni, everything is clear. I don't need to say anything more. I can't be hurt in vain, Han Chen is yours now." Ni Yongxiao had a gloomy face and tried his best to suppress his anger. "Han Chen is dead, Yao Ma Ti is yours." "That sniper is not easy to deal with," Li Qing teased. "What do you want?" Ni Yongxiao gradually lost his patience. "I heard that Boss Ni also has business in Hejiang." Ni Yongxiao narrowed his eyes. The business in Hejiang was something he had done when his father was in power, but it was useless to him now. After all, his base was in Hong Kong. "Okay, as long as it can avenge my father, the business in Hejiang will be given to you." "Great. Mr. Ni, it's a deal." Li Qing and Ni Yongxiao solemnly clapped their hands and swore. "Sister Mary, why did you call me here so hastily?" Lu Jianming looked at the woman in front of him. He had been fascinated by this woman since he saw her. "Ming, pack up your things quickly. Let's leave Hong Kong quickly. It will be too late if we are late." Mary looked flustered. She didn't want to take Han Chen away from the beginning. She wanted to take Lu Jianming with her. Han Chen was doomed to die. He had a criminal record and couldn't leave Hong Kong at all. The way to smuggle was also blocked by Li Qing. "Mary, what did you say?" "I'm going to be a senior inspector soon. If I leave now, won't all my efforts go to waste?" Lu Jianming spread his hands and looked at Mary in disbelief. Mary pursed her lips and finally said, "Li Qing may know that you killed Ni Kun." Lu Jianming fell silent, then smiled again. "So what if he knows? Does he have evidence? Are you crazy enough to be a policeman? He doesn't need evidence. Don't tell me you didn't participate in the assassination of him." Mary yelled at Lu Jianming. Lu Jianming hugged Mary and stroked her head. "Don't worry, he doesn't dare to kill me. The Ying family has agreed that we will all immigrate in a few years. Sir Lu, who said that my boss doesn't dare to kill you? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 59. Lu Jianming looked towards the direction from which the sound came, and saw Ao and his men walking over with a joking look on their faces. After Li Qing got the news about Mary from Ni Yongxiao, he arranged for Ao to come out to do things. Chiu Gong Ao, I have long heard from other colleagues that you have been involved in the club. Do you know that you are a former police officer? Lu Jianming pointed at Ao and scolded loudly. Sir Lu, you are so majestic. What is your identity? Are you talking to me like this? An undercover agent in the society? Or a quasi-senior inspector? Ao knocked off Lu Jianming's hand and looked at him with a defiant expression. In fact, Ao was also shocked by Han Chen's sexy tactics. He had only heard that the police had undercover agents, but he didn't expect that the club also had undercover agents in the police force, and they had quite high positions. Arrest this woman. After hearing Ao's order, the young master behind him stepped forward with an evil smile. What do you want to do? Lu Jianming pulled out his pistol from his waist and pointed it at the young master who stepped forward. Ho ho, be careful of misfire. Ao looked at Lu Jianming with a smile and pointed at his chest. I don't know when Lu Jianming and Mary started to have 2 red spots on their chests. Seeing the red dots on his body, Lu Jianming dropped the gun in his hand on the ground. He knew that he had been targeted by a sniper rifle. He turned around and hugged Mary, holding her tightly as if this could protect her. Ba bang! A burst of applause appeared, and Ao and others showed their way. Li Qing walked out. Sir Lu, I didn't expect that Han Chen's wife would dare to come. In fact, from beginning to end, Lu Jianming always did things for Han Chen because of Mary, including the assassination of Ni Kun. Tisk, tisk, it's really hard for a hero to have to deal with his sister-in-law. Seeing the scene of the two hugging each other tightly, Li Qing was amazed. Speak up if you have anything to say. Mary and I are innocent. Lu Jianming looked at Li Qing intently. He also knew that Li Qing must ask him to do something, otherwise he would have been killed long ago. Well, you do something for me. I will let you and her go, and I will also arrange for you to sneak out of Xiangjiang. Pointing at Mary, Li Qing smiled slightly. Lu Jianming could only nod. He had no choice but to agree to Li Qing's request. I heard that you have a good relationship with Situji? We arranged to play mahjong, and by the way, there's also the Wanchai gunslinger. I've admired him for a long time. Li Qing looked at Lu Jianming expressionlessly. Lu Jianming was already frightened by Li Qing's words. You must know that although Situji has retired, he is still the superintendent. The Wanchai gunslinger is an inspector like Lu Jianming. Are you crazy? Lu Jianming thought Li Qing was really crazy. If something happened to these two people, it would shock the whole of Xiangjiang. Mary exclaimed. Taking advantage of Lu Jianming's unpreparedness, the young master pulled Mary over and hugged her tightly. Lu Jianming shouted angrily, what do you want to do? Don't worry, it's just playing mahjong. Li Qing stepped forward and patted Lu Jianming on the shoulder, telling him to calm down. As long as you can do it, I guarantee that Mary will be fine. I hope you will keep your word. I will contact you when arrangements are made. Lu Jianming looked at Mary, nodded, and then hurriedly walked off the rooftop. Li Qing watched Lu Jianming walk away and waved his hand to ask the young master to take Mary down. He casually picked up Lu Jianming's gun and inserted it into his lower back. Come, Ao, sit with me for a while. Li Qing sat on the rooftop, patted the seat next to him, and gave Ao a cigarette by the way. I have made arrangements. After this matter is done, you will go to Hejiang. There are some businesses there that you need to take over. Taking a deep breath of cigarette, Li Qing looked at him and said with a smile. Ao also exhaled a puff of smoke and said, Brother Qing, I have made you worry so much. If you don't do this, I will feel sorry for Brother Biao. Li Qing hugged Ao's shoulder and said, I am your eldest brother. I have to help with this. Are you ready for Huo Zhaotang? Well, the route has been investigated clearly. But Brother Ching, don't we really want to loot his treasury? According to Ao's arrangement, not only must he get rid of Huo Zhaotang, but he must also get some money from him. However, the plan to steal money was rejected by Li Qing. If you take too much time to steal money, you will be targeted by the police. A little impatience will ruin the big plan. Ao nodded. It would take at least 10 minutes to rob the bank. The Xiangjiang police arrived in time to surround them. The two chatted for a while, and then Li Qing received a call from Zhang Qiandan. Brother, Han Chen ran away. It turned out that after Li Qing learned the news from Ni Yongxiao, he divided his troops into two teams, one to capture Mary and the other to capture Han Chen. Unexpectedly, Han Chen ran away. It seemed that he had already noticed it. Look for it. Even if you dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find it for me. Everything was caused by Han Chen. It was just an unfinished building. Li Qing did not expect it to become such a big deal. This street boy, you bastard. While Li Qing was cursing, Han Chen carefully hid in a private house opposite the inn. He rented this private house before entering the hotel. As expected of Han Chen, he not only knows how to play infernal affairs, but also knows the 3 cunning rabbit holes. In fact, when Mary came, he felt something was wrong. With Mary's IQ, why would he transfer any property at this time? Do you think the Ni family is blind? After Mary left, he left the inn and bought a telescope in the store to closely monitor the inn. Damn, bitch, betray me. Han Chen looked through the telescope and watched a group of gangsters looking for people in the room. At this time, even a fool knew that he was exposed. He was panicking now. Even his own woman betrayed him. Who else could he trust? After a moment of thinking, Han Chen gritted his teeth. You are unfaithful, don't blame me for being unjust. The sun rises and sets, and the night falls again. Lu Jianming's house. Hey, Sir Lu, why do you have time to invite us to play cards? Situji took off his coat and hung it on the chair in front of the mahjong table. Haha, this time I'm going to be promoted to senior inspector, you have to accompany Mr. Situ well. Wan Chai Gun God also joked. Lu Jianming smiled slightly, that's right, after all, Superintendent Situ also has the right to vote. The 3 of them sat at the mahjong table. Hey? One more person is missing, Situji asked curiously, which big boss are you inviting? Situji looked at Lu Jianming teasingly. Before Lu Jianming could speak, Li Qing and Aao opened the door and walked out, sitting directly on the empty seat. I don't dare to be a big boss, I'm just a short mule. Li Qing looked at the 3 people in a weird way. It turned out that Lu Jianming had already informed him. Situji didn't know that it was Li Qing, but he knew Aao. When he saw Aao, his face changed drastically. Lu Jianming, what do you mean? Situji asked loudly, his expression was obviously very flustered. Lu Jianming lowered his head and didn't speak. At this time, it was better to die than to die. So sir, you still know me. Are you happy to see me? Aao supported his hands on the table and stared at Situji fiercely. Do you know that I am the Wan Chai Gun God? Stand up and hold your head with your hands. The Wan Chai Gun God stood up and pointed at Li Qing and others without any hesitation. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 60. Li Qing pulled out the pistol from his waist and pressed it against the 4-eyed boy's forehead. Wan Chai Gunslinger? Hello. Smiling as he looked at the trembling Wan Chai Gunslinger, the cold barrel of the gun made his lips turn white. Hello, is there any misunderstanding? He swallowed and said. Li Qing shook his head, remember to say hello to my boss. The Wan Chai Gunslinger had a question mark on his face, who is your boss? Liangkan. The Wan Chai Gunslinger's eyes widened with a horrified look on his face. Bang. There was a gunshot, and a bullet hole appeared in the middle of his forehead. It was exactly the same place where he shot Liangkin to death. Sidhuji's face was stained with white brain matter and red blood, and he was stunned for a moment. Although he is a policeman, he has not seen such a bloody scene for a long time. Li Qing casually handed the gun to Ao. Ao, it was my fault at that time. I was inhumane and made you suffer. Don't worry, I will surrender now. I arranged everything. By the time Sidhuji came to his senses, the gun was already in Ao's hand. Seeing Ao slowly raise the gun, Sidhuji knelt on the ground. Let me go, Ao, I am the shame of the police force, I am the shame of the police force. Remember to go to the underworld to apologize to Brother Biao. A shot hit the center of the eyebrow, and Sidhuji collapsed, with a look of fear in his eyes. You're not going to kill me, are you? Lu Jianming glanced at Li Qing carefully, then quietly wiped his hand towards his lower back. Don't be stupid, I told you to let you go. Lu Jianming breathed a sigh of relief, but was still cautious. Li Qing waved his hand, and everyone made way. Walking along the road to the door, Lu Jianming opened the door and walked out. Then he stretched out his hands and stepped back, with a cold barrel pressed against his head. Boss Ni, you are here. Li Qing looked at the person holding the gun with a smile. It was Ni Yongxiao. He had never thought of letting Lu Jianming go. After all, the wound on his arm was still aching. The most important thing is Lu Jianming, who is also a part of the deal between him and Ni Yongxiao. Li Qing, you said that. Damn it, it's only because of the strong wind that night that I didn't kill you, Lu Jianming roared, knowing that he would definitely die today. Sir Lu, I won't kill you, and I have prepared a boat for you. Whether others kill you or not is none of my business. Li Qing spread his hands. He just said not to kill him, but not to ensure his safety. Also, you don't think Boss Ni doesn't know about the revenge for killing your father, do you? Li Qing smiled teasingly. He handed the gun in his hand to Ni Yongxiao, use this one. Ni Yongxiao took the gun and shot Lu Jianming directly in the temple without any hesitation. Infernal affairs. Li Qing looked at Lu Jianming's body with disdain. All members of Infernal Affairs were bad guys. He hated such unruly people the most. Ao took the pistol, carefully wiped the fingerprints on the gun with a towel, and then stuffed it into Lu Mingjian's hand. Li Qing took out a dagger, cut off some of the Wanchai gunslinger's hair and put it in his pocket. The group of people walked out of the house and locked the door. By the time the note came to the door, it must have stunk. But Zhang Qiandan and others did not go so smoothly. They finally found Han Chen, but it was too late. There was nothing they could do against Han Chen. Brother, I'm sorry. By the time we found him, he had already ran into the police station. Zhang Qiandan lowered his head and stood in front of Li Qing. Li Qing was also surprised by Han Chen's tricks, but he still couldn't underestimate people's desire to survive. After all, if caught by Li Qing, he would definitely die. If he surrendered to the police station, he might still survive. At this time, Han Chen was sitting in the interrogation room, eating fried noodles. He was different from the arrogance before, this time he was like a lost dog. Ahem, Sir Zhang, give me a glass of water. He was hiding here and there and hadn't eaten for a whole day. Zhang Chongbang poured a glass of water and handed it to him. You just said there was a big secret, what big secret? At this time, Han Chen was very honest. He knew that being an informant and a witness was his only way to survive. Hey, I have an undercover agent in your police force. Han Chen directly told what he thought was the most important news. Upon hearing this, Zhang Chongbang also stood up from his chair and signaled the police officer beside him to start recording. Who? I can say yes, but you have to protect my safety. Han Chen is now afraid that Li Qing will desperately kill him. Even in Stanley Prison, As long as Li Qing says a word, countless young and dangerous boys will kill him. He needs to apply for police protection so he can survive. Zhang Chongbang thought for a while and nodded. Okay, as long as you tell me, I will apply for police protection for you. And an inspector. Zhang Chongbang's eyes moved. Are you telling the truth? Zhang Chongbang asked cautiously. It was okay if it was true. If it was false, if he investigated a colleague by himself, he would be beaten to death by the investigation department. Han Chen nodded, but he would not foolishly hand over the evidence to the police. This was his last resort to save his life. Lord! Suddenly a police officer opened the door and came in. Huo Zhaotang was killed. Zhang Chongbang's face changed slightly when he heard this name. Of course he knew this name. He asked Huo Zhaotang many times 3 years ago. But he just refused to excuse Qiu Gongao and others. He didn't know if this person's death had anything to do with Qiu Gongao. It was such a coincidence that Qiu Gongao and others had just been released from prison, and then... Hurry up and call Situji to ask where he is. Zhang Chongbang didn't care about the traitor at all, and casually ordered the police officer next to him to continue interrogating Han Chen. He hurried out of the interrogation room, and only Han Chen was stunned on the chair. Hey, I have a lot of information, don't you want to know the traitor? Han Chen felt disrespected at this time, and said to the young police officer, don't ask me, this traitor has a high position, I won't tell you if you inspect it. Tisk you can say it or not. The young police officer glanced at Han Chen and walked out of the interrogation room. Hey, what's your attitude? I want to complain about you. Half an hour later, Zhang Chongbang looked at Huo Zhaotang who was shot in the chest and head. He squatted down and observed carefully, 2 shots in the torso and 1 shot in the head. It was obviously the Mozambique shooting method, which is generally the shooting method favored by the Marine Corps and Interpol abroad. There is only one person in the entire Hong Kong police force who likes to use him, and that is Qiu Gongao. Only Qiu Gongao has participated in the Interpol training, and this is also a habit left over from that time. Arrest Qiu Gongao immediately. But Sir Zhang, there is no arrest warrant. I said arrest Qiu Gongao immediately, and I will take responsibility if something happens. Zhang Chongbang roared, and the police officers around him looked at him strangely. Sir Zhang, Situji's phone number cannot be reached, and his family said that he played mahjong with his colleagues all night and did not come back.